afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Outside Noise. I am Taylor Hodges with HottyToddy.com, and I will be your lead noisemaker for today's episode. And since this is the first one, this is basically just an opportunity for me to turn on a camera and just kind of talk a little bit about the news of the day, the events of the day, and things like that. Game previews, game recaps, and just we'll see what where this goes. But yeah, so with that, let's just get into it. All right. So the biggest news of the day for Ole Miss is the NCAA's decision to deny Trinidad Chambliss's appeal, where he was seeking another year of eligibility because he sat out the 2022 season at Ferris State due to some respiratory issues. It seems that the crux of the issue for the NCAA is that there is no documentation about the illness that he had at that time. He was so my understanding is he was at the practices, but he wasn't participating in the practices, which is a common thing in college football and just college sports in general. I, when I was hurt for a season of junior high, I was at every practice with the crutches, hobbling around. The requirements for reporting practice participation at the Division II level is different than at the Division I level, where at the Division I level there's a lot more details and better record keeping, such on and so forth like that. Whereas at the Division II level, it's not that way. And so that seems to be the reason why the NCAA is saying no. And on one hand, I get it, because it could just be like, hey, we're just trying to get Trinidad another year of eligibility because it's best for us, and we can't, like that. That's what the NCAA I think is kind of thinking, is like, is this an actual real illness? That sort of thing. The problem for the NCAA is uh, it really does seem like he did have that illness and didn't play because of it. So yeah, it's. But I mean, anyways, it doesn't really matter what the NCAA thinks anymore because they've already made their decision twice, and now it's going to go to the Mississippi State court system. So there's a preliminary injunction hearing scheduled for February 12th. That's basically Trinidad's asking a court to allow him to play next season while his lawsuit against the NCAA plays out. And what that would do is give him the ability to play next season while the lawsuit goes through what is a slow court system. And that's not just a Mississippi thing, that is an everywhere thing. And it's taking advantage of the situation, but it's the system. It's a situation that we're in. Why why I have no sympathy for the NCAA though is because all the problems that are going on right now are a byproduct of decades of questionable decision making on their end, and yeah, you reap what you sow. Um, so that's going to happen, and I would be very, very surprised if Trinidad is not granted that injunction. Uh, Tennessee quarterback Joey Aguilar, he recently got a preliminary injunction to have another year of eligibility. So he'll be with the Volunteers next season, and he got that in a Tennessee state court. So this Trinidad's going through the Mississippi state court system, and it's obvious that he's most likely going to get it. The Alabama basketball player got it. Aguilar got it, and I'm sure there are a few others that I'm just not thinking of right here in the moment. So rest assured, Ole Miss fans, Trinidad is. I'll say 98% certain that he's going to be the starting quarterback next year for the Rebels. Um, but yeah, so one more week to wait for that hearing, and of course, it'll get known. It'll be known really quick what the decision is. So the second bit of news for Ole Miss today was the SEC baseball coaches released their preseason poll and all SEC teams. Now, for the all SEC teams, the Hunter Elliott, of course, that was kind of an obvious pick for first team all SEC pitcher, and then Will Furnace was one of two first basemen to be named to the second team version of that. That feels about right, especially considering just the buku's amount of talent that is in the SEC. Now, where that is really shown though is in the preseason poll. Ole Miss was picked 10th, uh, pick predicted to finish 10th, excuse me. And I think that's more of a indication of how good the SEC is going to be this year rather than an indictment against Ole Miss itself. If you go look at the teams up at the top, it's LSU was number one, Texas was number two, Mississippi State was number three, which I know a lot of Ole Miss fans are probably not going to like that one, but uh, Mississippi State has done a lot, and there's a lot of hype and excitement and hope around that program right now. Whether or not it lives up to that is a whole other thing, and that's why we play the games. Number four was Arkansas, and I think if you stop right there and ask yourself if one of those four teams was in Omaha, or more than one of them are in Omaha in June, nobody's going to be surprised. And I think you could say the same thing for the next four too. You got Auburn at five, Tennessee six, Florida seven, and Vanderbilt at eight. Again, maybe Florida a little bit and Auburn would be kind of surprising, but not really. I mean, look at what they did last year, and it's Florida. Uh, they're always, in that conversation or right on the outside edges of that conversation. Then you get to Georgia at number nine, Ole Miss 10, Kentucky 11, Alabama 12. I think Georgia and Ole Miss would fall into the not a big surprise category of going to Omaha, but whoa, hey, look what they just did. Um, and then beyond that, I think once you get to your Kentucky, Alabama, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Missouri, those schools I think would be a little more surprising to see in Omaha. Missouri would be downright shocking. Like something crazy would have to happen for that to happen for the Tigers, those Tigers, to get to Omaha. It's but again, it's still way too early. Like they haven't even played a game yet, so we're not going to really get into any like Omaha predictions. I'll say this: that Ole Miss, I think, is going to finish higher than 10th. Hunter Elliott is one of the best pitchers in the SEC, if not the best pitcher. I think the kid at Texas, Dylan Valentis, would give him a run for the money, and then there might be a transfer that comes in and blows the door wide open. So we'll see how that goes. But then again, Ole Miss also has pretty good talent in its batting lineup. Three players hit 20 home runs last season, and you won't find many baseball teams or programs that can say that about their current team. So that's kind of that. We're 8 days away from the start of the college baseball season, which is always an exciting time period. And yeah, 10. I don't know. 10 still feels kind of a little bit low. The more I think about it, I think it's probably only one more spot up is what I think they should be. I think Ole Miss is right there with Vanderbilt, Florida, and Georgia too. So maybe the coaches did get it right. Um, but we play the games for a reason, and those are going to start in 8 days. Looking forward to it. And with that, we'll get to one more little bit of news before we call it a day. So the last little thing to talk about is Ole Miss women's basketball. They're going to be back in action tonight at 8 o'clock against number 21 Alabama, and that game is going to be in Tuscaloosa, where the Rebels have stayed in Alabama the past week after Storm Fern came through Oxford and left thousands of people without power. Some people still don't even have power, which is not a good thing, obviously. Um, and yeah, but they're in Alabama, and then I think that they'll be coming back to Oxford after this game. Um, but the Rebels, they're ranked number 13 in the latest AP poll. They're firmly within the NCAA tournament field, and they're in. They could end up hosting a NCAA regional as well. So they're on the right track for all of that, and I really think that this team can, go pretty far. Uh, but tonight they got to get past Alabama, who is good. They're good. They're not on the level of like South Carolina, LSU, and Texas, and Ole Miss is inching up close to being in that conversation. They just beat Vanderbilt, who was in that conversation or in that group last week. But Alabama, so looking at Alabama, they're averaging 71.8 points a game. That's pretty good offensively. They got two players that are averaging over 10 points or more a game, and they're fifth in the SEC in 3-point shooting. They're making, I think it's 36.9% of their three pointers per game. So that's pretty good. However, so the problem for Alabama is that the areas that they are weakest in is areas that Ole Miss is really good in. Ole Miss is a defensive minded team. That's what Coach Yo has said multiple times in post game press conferences and during the midweek press conferences as well, and rebounding as well. Especially in the last couple of games, Ole Miss, like against Auburn, I don't have the number in front of me. I think it was like 58 to 23 in rebounding, something crazy like that. It's just when you were watching it, it's just like a missed shot, an Ole Miss player is going to get it, and then it would be a surprise if an Auburn player got it. But yeah, so this women's team is really good. Cody McMahon, I think, is easily one of the best players in the nation. She's very hard to stop. In fact, the only time that she has been stopped was the weird Georgia game where it looked like Ole Miss had a cover on its basket the entire game. So, and even then, it's because that game was so weird. Like, I remember watching that one and being like, "What is going on here?" Like, this is the, it. I really had to look kind of closer at the screen to make sure there's not like a saran wrap on top of that basket, is there? Because the shots just weren't falling, and that's not it's the typical Ole Miss team that we have seen this season. So, and we have no reason to expect to see another performance like that from them. But then again, that's not something that's easily predicted. And now we're rambling. The point is, the Rebels are good. They're going to have a long season. Don't be surprised if they are playing in April. So, all right. And so that's going to do it for today's episode of The Outside Noise. Again, Taylor Hodges with HottyToddy.com. And we'll be back in the near future with another episode to talk more. In the meantime, hope you have a great day. Stay safe. And if you are one of the people still without power in Oxford, I don't know if it really helps, but a lot of people are thinking about you and praying for you and hoping that that power gets turned back on now.